What happens inside your mouth when a tooth grows? A 3D journey. Deep beneath your gums, there's a hidden world in constant motion, a world of biological engineering so precise it's almost unbelievable. Long before you ever see a flash of white, a tiny tooth has to build itself from just a few cells, create its own armor, and then physically fight its way through solid bone to join your smile. Trust me, this isn't a gentle process. It's a story of construction, demolition, and a relentless climb against all odds. For years, this whole saga was a biological black box, but today we're going on a journey into that world. Using 3D animation, we're going to peel back the layers of gum and bone to see one of the most incredible things your body does. We'll follow the complete life story of a single tooth, from its first spark to its dramatic eruption. This is the invisible engineering your body performs every day, a 3D journey to see what really happens when a tooth grows. Take a look at this jawbone. It seems solid, right? An inert scaffold just holding teeth in place. But if we dive deeper, past the gums and the visible surface of the bone, we find a hidden battlefield. Down here, in the dark, a silent but epic struggle is about to kick off. The mission? To build a complex, mineralized structure and then launch it through this dense, living fortress. How does a soft, tiny cluster of cells build something strong enough to last a lifetime? And how does it then command the very bones surrounding it to just dissolve and get out of the way? The answer is a cellular war, a symphony of biological signals that we're about to see firsthand. The first spark, a microscopic blueprint. Our story starts early, way back in the first moments of development. Let's travel back in time to just 6 weeks after conception. Inside the developing mouth of a tiny embryo, there's no real jawbone yet, just a simple arch of tissue. And right here, something amazing happens. A signal flickers to life. A single layer of cells, the oral ectoderm, gets its first instructions and begins to thicken, forming a distinct band. This is the dental lamina. Think of the dental lamina as the first line an architect draws on a blueprint. From this simple-looking band, every single one of our baby teeth will originate. It's a cellular highway, a predetermined path where life's most durable biological structures are born. Almost immediately, the dental lamina gets to work. At 10 specific spots on the upper arch and 10 on the lower, activity ramps up. Cells start multiplying, budding off from the main lamina and pushing deeper into the embryonic tissue. This is the very first stage of tooth development, the bud stage. What you're seeing now is that bud. It doesn't look much, just a simple knot of cells, a tiny seed planted deep in the developing jaw. It has no crown, no root, no enamel, but locked inside this humble cluster is the entire blueprint for a future incisor, canine, or molar. This little bud is the first gathering of the troops, the team that will spend months, even years, building and fighting for its place in the sun. As these 20 buds take shape, they represent the complete set of primary or baby teeth. They are the pioneers. The information they carry dictates their own future and the future of the permanent teeth that will one day replace them. It all starts here with this unassuming collection of cells. For this little bud, the real work has just begun. The forge, building the crown in the cap and bell stages. The bud doesn't just get bigger, that would be too simple. Instead, it transforms. The bottom of the bud starts to fold inward, pushed by a group of cells condensing below it. This folding marks the transition to the next phase, the cap stage. As we watch the 3D model, you can see it now looks like a small fitted cap sitting on top of another cluster of cells. This is a critical moment. Our army of cells is now splitting into 3 specialized divisions. The cap itself is the enamel organ. Its destiny is to produce enamel, the hardest substance in the human body. The cells condensing underneath are the dental papilla, and they'll be responsible for creating the tooth's core, the dentin and the pulp. Surrounding this entire complex is a fibrous sac called the dental follicle. We'll come back to the follicle later because it's the mission commander for the tooth's eruption. For now, just remember these 3 players: the enamel organ forging the armor, the dental papilla building the core, and the dental follicle orchestrating the whole show. From the cap stage, the structure gets even more complex. The folding deepens and it takes on a shape that gives this next, most crucial phase its name, the bell stage. What you're seeing now is the birth of the tooth's final blueprint. The bell shape isn't random, it's the detailed 3D mold of the tooth's future crown. The folds and dips you see forming on its inner surface will become the cusps of a molar or the sharp edge of an incisor. Here, in the bell stage, the final form of the crown is locked in. To understand how this factory works, let's look inside the bell. It has 4 distinct layers. The outermost layer is the outer enamel epithelium, basically the factory's protective wall. Inside that is a thick, cushioned layer of star-shaped cells called the stellate reticulum. It's a shock absorber and a supply network, helping to shuttle nutrients to the hard-working cells deep inside. Next is the stratum intermedium, a thin layer of cells that acts like the foreman, directly supporting the most important cells of all. And finally, at the very heart of the bell, we find the inner enamel epithelium. These are the master craftsmen, but before they do anything, they have to send a signal. And this is where we see one of the coolest examples of teamwork in all of biology: reciprocal induction. The cells of the inner enamel epithelium send a chemical message to the dental papilla cells next to them. This signal is a wake-up call. It commands those cells to transform into highly specialized cells called odontoblasts. The odontoblasts get to work first. They immediately start producing the first layer of the tooth structure, dentin. They start at the future boundary between enamel and dentin and begin moving inward toward the center of the tooth, leaving a trail of fresh dentin behind them. But as they work, they communicate. That very first layer of dentin sends a signal back across the boundary to the cells that first woke them up. This is the reciprocal part. This signal is the final go-ahead. It tells the inner enamel epithelium cells, it's your turn. They transform and become amaloblasts, the enamel weavers. Now a magnificent cellular dance begins. The new amaloblasts start secreting enamel directly on top of that first layer of dentin. And just as the odontoblasts are moving inward, the amaloblasts begin a slow march in the exact opposite direction, outward. So you have 2 teams of cells starting at the same line and moving in opposite directions, each leaving a trail of their material. The odontoblasts retreat inward, building the thick core of dentin. The amaloblasts move outward, weaving the intricate crystalline rods of enamel, the brilliant white, incredibly durable shell that will have to withstand a lifetime of chewing. All of this is happening in total darkness, a silent microscopic construction site operating with flawless precision deep inside the jaw. The ascent, a war against bone. The crown is now fully formed, a perfect gleaming structure, but it's a prisoner. It's trapped in a bony crypt deep within the jaw. A fortress of solid bone stands between it and its destination. The tooth can't just push its way out. Bone is way too dense. It has to orchestrate a breakout. This is where the story shifts from construction to a biological war. So who's running this whole operation? It's not the tooth, it's that fibrous bag we mentioned earlier, the dental follicle. This sac of connective tissue is the master strategist. It has the power to command the bone itself. The upper half of the follicle, the part facing the exit, wakes up first. It releases a cocktail of signaling molecules that soak into the bone above. Their target? Osteoclasts, the bone destroyers. Attracted by the signals, these massive cells swarm the area, attach to the bone directly over the tooth, and get to work. They pump out acid and enzymes that dissolve the bone, carving out an eruption pathway. They are microscopic demolition crews, clearing a tunnel through the solid bone. But that's only half the strategy. While osteoclasts are clearing the path ahead, the bottom half of the dental follicle is issuing completely different orders. It releases signals that activate another kind of cell, osteoblasts, the bone builders. These osteoblasts gather at the base of the bony crypt underneath the tooth and start depositing new layers of bone. This creates a propulsive force. As new bone forms at the bottom, it physically pushes the entire tooth upward into the very tunnel the osteoclasts are simultaneously carving out. This is the genius of eruption. It's a polarized system. Bone is destroyed above and bone is built below. It is the perfect biological rocket launch. The osteoblasts build the launch pad and provide the thrust, while the osteoclasts clear the flight path. Finally, after its long journey through the bone, the tooth faces its last barrier, the gums. As the tooth approaches, the protective layer over the enamel fuses with the gum tissue above it. As they fuse, they release enzymes that cause the tissue right in the center to disintegrate, creating a clean, epithelial-lined pathway. This is why a tooth can emerge without creating an open wound. It forms a tight seal, like a perfectly fitted turtleneck around the neck of the tooth, protecting the bone from the bacteria-filled world of the mouth. The rocket has breached the atmosphere. The war against the bone is won. But the mission isn't over yet. The tooth still needs to drop its anchor. The anchor, root formation and securing the victory. Here's one of the biggest misconceptions about tooth eruption. People think the root grows first and pushes the tooth out. The reality is far cleverer. The root actually forms during the eruption process, and its growth is one of the main engines driving the tooth upward. The anchor is built at the same time as the launch. To see how, we have to go back to the bell stage, to the rim of the bell called the cervical loop. Once the crown is complete, the cells of this loop continue to grow downward away from the crown, forming a sleeve of cells called Hertwig's epithelial root sheath, or HERS. Think of HERS as a moving blueprint that dictates the exact size, shape, and number of roots a tooth will have. For an incisor, it grows down as a single cylinder. For a molar, it folds inward to create a separate pathway for each root. Just like its parent, the job of HERS is to send signals. As it grows deeper, it tells the nearby cells of the dental papilla to become odontoblasts and start making the dentin for the root. With every new layer of dentin, the root gets longer. This elongation, happening in a confined space, acts like a jack, pushing the crown steadily upward. But then something strange happens. Once HERS has mapped out a section of the root, its job is done and it needs to get out of the way. The sheath deliberately breaks apart into tiny, disconnected clusters of cells. This fragmentation is essential because it allows cells from the surrounding dental follicle to come in and touch the newly formed dentin root. This contact triggers their final transformation. Some of these follicle cells become cementoblasts, and they secrete a bone-like substance called cementum that covers the entire root. This is the surface where the tooth's suspension system will attach. Other follicle cells become fibroblasts. They start spinning tiny collagen fibers. One end of each fiber embeds into the new cementum on the root, and the other end embeds into the bone of the tooth socket. As the tooth moves into its final position, these fibers stretch and organize into a remarkable structure, the periodontal ligament, or PDL. The PDL isn't rigid, it's a high-tech suspension system that slings the tooth in its socket. It acts as a shock absorber, turning the immense forces of chewing into gentle tension. And it's also full of nerves that give your brain precise feedback, letting you bite into a chip or an apple with just the right amount of force. And with that, the anchor is set. When the war is lost, the tragedy of impaction. For most of the 32 permanent teeth, this incredible journey is a success. But sometimes the mission fails. The chain of command breaks down, the path isn't cleared, and the tooth becomes a permanent prisoner in the jaw. This is the tragedy of impaction. The most notorious soldiers to fall in this battle are the third molars, wisdom teeth. By the time they try to erupt in our late teens or early 20s, the jaw has often stopped growing. There just isn't enough space. The runway is too short for the rocket to land. When a tooth is impacted, the dental follicle might be sending all the right signals, but the tooth is physically jammed against its neighbor. In other cases, the signaling itself is faulty. The call for osteoclasts, the demolition crew, might be too weak or might not come at all. The bony wall remains intact. Even worse, sometimes the bone-building osteoblasts keep working while the osteoclasts have stalled. The prison walls actually get thicker. The consequences can be severe. A trapped tooth can damage the roots of the neighboring molar. The leftover dental follicle can form a painful cyst. If a wisdom tooth partially breaks through, it creates a flap of gum tissue that's a perfect home for bacteria, leading to recurring, painful infections. It's a powerful reminder that for all its precision, this complex process can fail, and it highlights just how many things have to go right for a single tooth to complete its journey. From a simple thickening in an embryonic jaw to a gleaming, functional tooth in a human smile, the journey is nothing short of an epic. We've seen a process of invisible engineering where cells act as architects, engineers, and soldiers. We saw the blueprint laid down in the bud and the crown forged in the factory of the bell stage. We watched the tooth wage a silent war, commanding the very bone that imprisoned it to dissolve and make way. We saw it launch like a biological rocket, all while building its own anchor system deep below the surface. Every single tooth in your mouth took this perilous journey. This saga of construction and eruption unfolds dozens of times throughout our lives, a silent testament to the breathtaking complexity hidden just beneath the surface. It's a reminder that even the most familiar parts of ourselves are the product of a profoundly intelligent biological process. If you found this journey into the microscopic world of your own body as fascinating as we did, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into human biology. And we want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments what biological process you'd like to see us visualize next. Thanks for watching.